Good morning. Welcome to the 10th Annual Homeland Security Symposium and Expo, co-hosted by Christopeher Newport University's Center for American Studies and HII. We are absolutely delighted to be able to host this event again after a 3-year hiatus owing to the pandemic. So very much let us thank you for all coming, and again, I want to reaffirm that how excited we are. My name is Nathan Busch, and I'm co-director of the Center for American Studies. A little bit about the center. The Center for American Studies is an academic program here at CNU that's dedicated to fostering teaching and research about America's founding principles, America's economic system, and national security. This year's symposium focuses on protecting America's critical infrastructure, a topic of tremendous and increasing importance to our nation's security. From ongoing risks related to cybersecurity to recent reports of targeting of electrical substations to the U.S. military's shooting down of a purported Chinese surveillance balloon and several other objects over the last week or so, one can see very clearly that the targeting of U.S. infrastructure is dedicated, intense, and continuous. The purpose of today's symposium is to explore these issues and many others in great detail, to try to understand what the threats are to America's critical infrastructure and how we are working to address these threats. Now, we're delighted by the caliber of speakers who will be joining us. But before we proceed further, let me pause and give some thanks. First, please allow me to thank our sponsors who made this event possible, beginning, of course, and especially with HII as the co-host of this symposium. Thank you also to the Sarah Scaife Foundation, G2Ops, the National Defense Transportation Association, Archegos LLC, and Verizon Wireless. Please visit our exhibitors in the exhibit hall. Please also allow me to thank our center's esteemed Board of Advisors for assisting in planning of this event. And finally, let me also give a heartfelt thanks to our center's intrepid junior fellows, especially Zach McKenzie, our research fellow, who has been my right-hand dude on this conference. Now, let me please turn things over to Rick Graham, who is the Corporate Director of Security and Emergency Management for HII, to tell you a little bit about HII and to introduce our first speaker for the day. So let me turn things over to Rick, but let me again say thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Dr. Busch. Good morning, everyone. HII is proud to co-sponsor this event with Christopeher Newport University, and I want to personally thank all of you here today because I know what you do every day, the hard work that you do to protect our critical infrastructure, both in the Commonwealth of Virginia and for our nation. HII, we have a 135-year history. We're the 7th largest U.S. defense contractor in the nation, and we employ roughly 44,000 employees throughout the world. Most people affiliate shipbuilding with HII, and that's a big part of what we do. We have 2 divisions that are dedicated to military shipbuilding. Newport News Shipbuilding, our largest division, builds our nation's nuclear carriers and nuclear submarines. And English Shipbuilding in Pascagoula, Mississippi, builds 4 classes of ship for the Navy and the Coast Guard. We have roughly 70% of the nation's the Navy's ships today, so it's a great contribution to our nation's security. Our 3rd division is Mission Technologies. They do provide a variety of services and products to the government to include artificial intelligence, cyber and electronic warfare, unmanned maritime systems, nuclear, environmental services, and much more. So with that, I'd like to show you a short video about HII.
Landing on a seagoing platform, that's hard. Who first thought it even possible? Today, it's done right every day. Who thought we could unlock the enemy? Today, nuclear energy safely powers our ships as we protect the environment. Helping warfighters in never-before-seen circumstances react like they've seen it a million times. Remaining submerged for months, unseen, manned, and ever vigilant. Joined beneath the sea, way beneath, by autonomous vehicles fulfilling their mission all on their own. Delivering actionable intelligence across the globe, across domains at hyperspeed. None of it is simple. All of it is very, very hard. Built on brilliant breakthroughs first imagined, then made real, then applied. Yet when practiced with rigor by people who know they are standing on the shoulders of giants, it is the safety of people that remains supreme. This is indeed the hard stuff. The hard stuff done right. HII, Global Engineering and Defense Technologies for the mission.
I love that video. It always gets me fired up. I love the company too. Now I'd like to introduce our first keynote speaker, Aliscia Andrews. Aliscia started her Homeland Security career more than 15 years ago while serving as an intelligence analyst and weapons and tactics instructor for the United States Marine Corps. After the Marine Corps, Ms. Andrews completed her MBA and Cybersecurity Management Certificate from Georgetown University. After her time in the Marine Corps, Mrs. Andrews continued honing in her analytical tradecraft in both the public and private sector. Her work portfolio has focused primarily in finding complex solutions to challenging government problems as a strategic management, analytic, and cyber policy advisor in support of multiple government agencies both in and out of the intelligence community. Today, Mrs. Andrews is proud to be the Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security for the Commonwealth of Virginia. She continues to serve her community as a member and volunteer on multiple parent-teacher organizations, disadvantaged children's groups, church ministry groups, youth group leagues, and mentors transitioning veterans. Deputy Secretary Andrews resides in Aldie, Virginia with her husband and 3 children. Please join me in welcoming Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security for the Commonwealth of Virginia, Aliscia Andrews.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? It's kind of early, so I'll give you a little bit of time to warm up. Got a couple of speakers. You got to stay awake. But good morning. Like mentioned, I am Deputy Secretary Aliscia Andrews, and I have the distinct honor of serving the Commonwealth in the Homeland Security Advisor role, as well as the Executive Committee. A complete thing that I take great joy and pride in doing every day. You know, that video reminded me a lot of my experience. You would have never known that I deployed on LPD-19, which I believe is one of your craft that you did. The USS Mesa Verde went to 19 different countries, did humanitarian operations across the globe, and also did tons of work with the Jordanians, the Omanians, you get the idea, around the globe, and being America's 911 service. In watching that video, it reminded me of the first time I took my oath of office. How many of you here have taken an oath of office or taken the oath because you decided to serve the military? A few of you. Part of that oath, when you raise your right hand, you pledge to protect America, our homeland, against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And it's something that we take to heart. And I remember the first time I did that in Parris Island, South Carolina. And if you aren't familiar with Parris Island, South Carolina, it is not a tourist trap. It is a place where Marines are made. And it's something that I've constantly thought about the multiple times having to take that oath of office. of how important it is to truly understand what it means to protect the homeland. Inherently, we think Homeland Security is a federal role. And truthfully, most of my career has been with the federal government. I've actually worked for Director Wray, he just doesn't know that. I'm gonna surprise him with that later. But I've worked across many of our government agencies in the intelligence community. And one of the things that we've talked a lot about is the federal government's role. But I assure you that the Commonwealth of Virginia holds a very unique role in Homeland Security. We are not only the birthplace of 7 US presidents, but we're also the place where over 70% of the world's fiber is run through Northern Virginia. And that's something that if you think about, how many of you used your directional capabilities through Waze or what have you to get here? Or if you look to see if the weather was going to be warm enough we weren't going to need a sweater. Every ounce of what you do with the internet touches Virginia. And that's a pretty humbling experience for people that don't know that. And it's not just the Commonwealth that's impacted or the country, but it's the globe. So if you think about all the Homeland Security investments that are made across the world to ensure America's safety, it's something to think about when you're seeing different groups able to protest and to know that that fiber has been impacted by the Commonwealth. It's a pretty powerful thing. But here in the state, we operate off of 5 pillars when we think about Homeland Security. We talk about prevention, protection, mitigation. We go even further into our recovery elements and ensuring that that mitigation part of recovery at the end truly ensures that every individual that's impacted by something, whether it be a snowstorm that closes down 95 and has a US senator sit for 12 hours, or it's something else that's incredibly impactful. We have unique roles that are spread across the Commonwealth. Now, one of the things that I wanted to do this morning is to take you on a journey around my state. Most people don't realize exactly what all Virginia does and the capabilities, just a few of them, that we're responsible in protecting the homeland. So if you start out at Wallops Island, where many of you, I'm sure, know about the space program, but don't realize that under our tenure, we've now increased our operations to be at least once a month to twice a month where they're putting satellites into space and protecting that critical infrastructure, because people don't think about space being critical. But now you can go on Amazon in any country in the world and be able to purchase something and put it up in space. I call it the junk space industry. Well, it's not a problem today, but as you heard over the past several days about the stratosphere with our Chinese balloon and other things that you've heard about the unidentified phenomena, as this administration's calling it, the more junk that we're seeing is unlike never before. It's easier to put things up. It's easier to not have to follow and mitigate certain strategies to ensure the safety of what we put into space. Now, that's just one part of the Commonwealth. Now, if you come on down to the southwest portion, most people don't look at the southwestern part of Virginia as a huge Homeland Security driver. But if you look across the globe and throughout the test of time, you'll see food sustainability has been a critical and important part of crisis management. If you haven't paid attention to the bird flu, swine flu, pick your flu for an animal, it's incredibly important to understand how that affects the agricultural industry. Myself, and along with many universities across the Commonwealth and those outside, are working on a program now to allow family farmers to be more competitive with those larger farmers to make Virginia and our southwestern corridor a game changer in food sustainability using science and technology, which is going to revolutionarily change how we look at protecting our environment and using science to be able to change out crops. And it will impact you at home, but it'll also impact people across the country for both imports and exports. Now, if you take yourself all the way up to Northern Virginia, where we have probably one of the most unique and diverse workforces you'll find anywhere in the country, we're known as the internet bullseye for previously mentioned reasons, for 70% of the fiber running from Tysons out to Ashburn. But what's even more important about what's happening up there is our electronic grid. What most people don't realize is how important our energy grid is to our very way of life. Most people think they can just turn on a switch, and that's all they have to do. But what we've learned over the past several months, and I've been kind of grateful, that people are starting to actually look and to see what it means to protect our electronic grid. Now, before the substations were impacted in North Carolina and Washington State, Virginia was working with some of our larger energy components to do exercises to look and see how we could better secure our infrastructure. Because unlike other states, the people that are on our grid are the Director of National Intelligence, the Central Intelligence Agency, maybe one day the FBI headquarters. But we're protecting the critical pieces that keep you safe. And that's a unique responsibility that we take incredibly to heart. And so just this past year, we hosted an event with Dominion Energy where we brought our state police, our emergency management partners, as well as our National Guard. And they sat left seat, right seat with these energy providers in an exercise to illustrate what would happen if that energy sector went down. While it's incredibly unlikely, it's incredibly important for us to really look and see if it does happen, how do we impact that? How do we stop that bleeding? How can we support private industry? So for the first time, a big energy company went open kimono and allowed the National Guard of Virginia to sit and actually work through some of these problem sets. And they were on 12 ons, 12 offs, to really showcase what it would look like in the case of a significant impact that would shut down the grid. And something like that is a pretty humbling experience because you truly think about everything that's attached to it. And that's just one of our many exercises that we do. This year we're looking at our port because most people don't realize that in the Commonwealth, how many countries come into our ports when they're bringing goods and services. They don't understand that with the new cyber and other electronic warfare capabilities, what really is coming in, what is collecting, and how does that impact our goods and services? How do we protect those individuals? And that operation will be pretty interesting to see the outcome. Now, if you move yourself down a little bit to Richmond, most people think it's just a bunch of legislators. You've probably seen some of our interesting pieces in the news. But it's much bigger than that. Where daily we work together to find results. And if you look at what happened in Ohio just recently with the train derailment, we're working every day to support them. Virginia's in a unique capability for the next 2 years to provide and to show support, to pull resources from other states to wherever a crisis is happening. So not only are we focused on us, but we're also focused on whomever else might need support and help, which is a critical piece of ensuring the protection of our homeland. Now, I understand that Virginia might be a tiny piece of the pie, but I would assume most of it, or to most of you, it's your home. And to humanize the element that we are working with our federal partners, and we're engaged with those who are doing things at a higher level. For example, we were most recently in Richmond. We're working with our federal partners from multiple agencies to look at UAVs in an urban environment and what actually happens to them for interdiction purposes. What can we do? How can we do it? What's impacted and why? Because as the environment continues to change, we're looking at ways to get to yes, looking for ways to protect our partners, and looking for ways to protect over 7 million constituents in the Commonwealth. And that's an incredible opportunity for us. But at the point I want to drive home to each and every one of you is the value that every state can bring to the table. Not only are we able to bring financial resources, but we're able to be a contributing partner and looking at ways to get to yes, whether it be cyber, which to me is one of the most critical areas that we're facing right now when it comes to critical infrastructure, and it's not something that's talked about to the proportion that it should be. And making sure that we are educating people from a very young age of what that means. So since taking this office last year, I've initiated this program where if you think about the intelligence cycle, it's a very similar concept, but for cyber. When I took this job, we had over 70,000 cyber holes in the Commonwealth of Virginia, meaning we need 70,000 people to fill these jobs. Some of them required clearances, some of them didn't. But it was a pretty massive undertaking considering we didn't have the people to do the work. So we would either have to bring people from outside states or we'd have to educate from within. So it led to a very aggressive plan with our private industry as well as our state entities to not only make sure the universities were getting what they needed, but to start even earlier. We do bots for kids to teach them how to code in early elementary. We start talking to them about internet safety. We start talking to them on terms that they'll understand, and then take them all the way through that cycle, following them to make sure that they understand cyber isn't just coding. There's so many more facets, whether it be in Southwest with the food industry, whether it be in the medical device industry in Richmond with VCU, whether it be down here, whether it be at Wallops Island. There's so many options and opportunities. But we have to mitigate and ensure that those people understand what is available to them. It was also pretty humbling for me to understand that these high school students who want experience, because college is not for everyone, and finding ways for them to get plugged in. So I made a challenge to the counties across the state to start doing OJT for these high school students in cyber. Fairfax County took on, I think, 22 high school students, supposed to be for the summer. After 2 weeks of participation and them getting a little overzealous and starting to break certain things, they came to the CIO of Fairfax and asked him to extend that program, to have it year-round. So we're changing the mindset small. I'll give it to you. It's very small because it's something we have to build. But to continue to engage these students who want that opportunity, that maybe right after high school, they're going directly into the workforce. And I think that that's the way that we have to change our mindset as leaders to protect critical infrastructure. It might not be one vein to get there. We have to look at the swath and how we can get the most amount of people to be able to support what we're doing. Then we go on to engage when you're in college. For those of you who are fellows, we do have quite a few internships. Most recently, I put 22 people at the port, 19 within elections and helping our buildup across the Commonwealth. Because in some areas, our cyber folks are also dual-hatting with many other jobs and need that support to get to righteous to be able to support the critical infrastructure in their area. And then to follow on with businesses to find out where their holes are. Because that's a discussion that wasn't being had before. Which positions are you struggling with the most? And then taking that to our university partners and engaging with them on getting those certifications done. And it continues through that whole cycle. Because the only way to solve the 70,000 job problem, which is a huge, huge hurdle for critical infrastructure in the Commonwealth, is to ensure that we are paying attention and we're listening. But I'm so incredibly thankful to Christopher Newport University, HII, and others for hosting this incredibly timely discussion. Over the rest of the day, you're going to hear so much about critical infrastructure and where you can play a part. If not today, maybe tomorrow. We're incredibly lucky to have each and every one of you a part of this story, and I thank you for having me. I believe I'm going to be able to take a few questions from the audience if you guys have any.
There you go. Thank you, Deputy Secretary. Jack Givens, I'm from Utica University in New York State. I was wondering if you could speak a bit to how the Commonwealth has built, let's call it organizational infrastructure for sustaining public-private sector cooperation in Homeland Security over time. I'm thinking specifically here about ad hoc committees or informal meeting groups, things along these lines?
Well, a lot of the formal meetings and the formal groups are created through our legislature, but specifically, I'm part of the Homeland Security Executive Council, which is where we're engaging every day with private industry. But I wish I could tell you there was some crazy infrastructure that was in place prior to us getting here, and there really was not. It's something that we're building in flight. But I think that as people are starting to understand the challenges that we face here in the Commonwealth, we've had a much warmer reception. Just this past year, our legislators passed a requirement if there's a cyber incident or an incident that could elevate to a certain a level, that they had to report it within 24 hours with our state government. So any of our localities, et cetera, would have to report that. And so as we're starting to see more of people actually participating in this discussion of the challenges that they're facing, depending whether it be Lee County or Loudoun County, we're seeing a better partnership with our localities, engaging with the private sector. Now, with that being said, I independently am reaching out to many within the private industry through my office to engage as much as possible. For example, last week, many of you might have seen in the news, we received 222 political refugees from Nicaragua. And we, within the state, worked with our local NGOs, or non-government officials, to really, within about 24 hours, get resources together. And it's really incredible to watch as we bring these partners together. So I wouldn't say it's as much of a formal piece, it's more of an informal and an ad hoc way, but we do have working groups for cyber, big energy, things like that, where we're discussing the challenges.
So you've achieved your level of success starting in the Marine Corps, and you mentioned to the students that there were internships and on-the-job training. For those who want to pursue a career like what you have, what other things could they be doing now to help prepare them for a job in Homeland Security?
I appreciate that question. Truthfully, always say yes to any opportunity that you're given, even if it seems insane. At 20 years old, I went to Yuma, Arizona to learn everything about weapon systems. I had no business being there. But I said yes, because why not? What do you have to lose? And from that point of my career, it just truly pivoted to where I've gotten to now. It's just been a consistent of saying yes. But I will say it starts with having a desire to want to serve. For me, it was the military for a starting point, and truly understanding where you think you might want to serve. And for younger folks like you guys, you're probably thinking this is incredibly overwhelming and you don't know where to start. The federal government seems like it's USA Jobs might be the black hole of death. That's how my husband has described it in the past. But it's not. It really isn't. And we have internships, while they're not always publicly advertised because it's something that people typically send in resumes to. I'm happy to take your resumes and direct it to the right spot, and also share it with my federal partners, because there's an opportunity, if you're interested, to either do a Governor's Fellows program, which has a GPA requirement and other things, but there's also internships that we have, both in my office, public safety, and in with the DoD folks.
With the focus of the conference being on critical infrastructure and so many that you went over in the Commonwealth, what 2 or 3 are you most concerned of, or needs the most work or the most attention currently?
Thank you for that question. I would say that probably the most important to me right now is ensuring that energy grid is protected, as well as our substations, because of what we've seen recently. Not that we aren't in a good spot, because we really are. Our energy providers have been taking millions of dollars into their security program very seriously for several years because of the critical nature of what we're protecting. But it's something that's a constant evolutionary process. The second piece I would say is cyber and EW. We're looking specifically across the Commonwealth and how we can better be prepared. And there are some areas within the classified world that we could be better, and we're working with our partners to do so. So I think those are probably the 2 biggest. And we always are thinking about roads, bridges, different natural disasters and things like that that we're also responsible for. So I think that the emergency management piece of it, because we never know what tomorrow is going to truly bring, as what we've seen in Ohio, Arizona, and I believe Texas as of yesterday, have all seen interesting things happen to no fault of their own, just accidents happening, and being able to engage quickly. And so looking at potential worst-case pie-in-the-sky exercises to be able to ensure that, God forbid, something does happen, that we're prepared. Still nothing. Perfect.
You spoke briefly about the train derailment in Ohio.
Mhm.
Is there anything your office is doing, like, to help prevent a similar incident in Virginia?
Yes. We're doing actually quite a bit. So part of our lessons learned from several years ago is to understand our rail system a little bit better. And while we work with the federal partners for the rail system, because it is interstate rail, it's important to us to look at not only what cargo is being held onto each piece of rail, but also to look at what we're doing to protect people as they go on board. So not just thinking of commuter travel, but thinking about those conductors and the people that are working throughout the Commonwealth. Because in Richmond, we have 3 different lines that run right over each other. And it's something that we're constantly looking at to ensure the fidelity of those spaces. That's a really good question, though. Good for you. Well, if no one else has any other questions, I'll conclude on this. Every day we're giving an option, whether it's us at the state level, whether it is our local police, whether it is our county boards of supervisors, whether it's our private industry, or whether it's big energy. We're all giving an opportunity every day to do the right thing. And if you see something, say something. And while we think of that as a very old saying and that it kind of is abused, if you see something, say something, it's used for everything. In the case of Homeland Security, an instant could save someone's life. If you see something, even if you don't think it's important, it's not for you to litigate the value or the importance of what you see. That's what law enforcement can do. That's what our federal partners can do when they investigate. But it's important that if you do see something, or if you get that feeling that something's wrong, then to say something, because you could be the difference maker in someone's life. And we are working diligently on creating the 988 program in the Commonwealth for various challenges, whether it be mental health or other issues, just to ensure that there's a way to reach out. So if there's a situation where you see it, say something. But again, I thank you for your time, and I'll be around for a little while if you have any other questions that maybe you didn't feel comfortable saying. I'm going to be coming after you 6 to come talk to you. Yeah, I see you. But I thank you for the opportunity to serve. And on behalf of Governor Youngkin, Secretary Mosier, and myself, and the rest of the cabinet, we genuinely thank you for your support here in the Commonwealth. Thank you.
That was excellent, Aliscia. Thank you.